You know that moment. She says something. Maybe it's small, maybe it's not. And something inside you tightens. You don't even fully process the words yet, but already your jaw sets. Your thoughts start forming a defense. And before either of you has said 10 more words, you're not in a conversation anymore. You're in a war. And the strangest part, you didn't even want to fight. Neither did she. So how did you end up here again? This isn't about who's right. It's about something much deeper than that. You are not bad at relationships. You are not broken. You are not someone who loves conflict. In fact, most people who find themselves in cycles of argument are people who care deeply. So deeply that when something feels threatening, their entire system responds as if survival is on the line. That tightening you feel, that instant shift into defense mode, that's not weakness. That's your nervous system doing exactly what it was built to do. The problem isn't that it activates. The problem is that it was never taught to tell the difference between a real threat and a hard conversation. Let's start with the first reason conflicts escalate. And it has almost nothing to do with the actual topic. When two people argue, they are rarely arguing about what they think they're arguing about. She says you never listen. You hear, you are a failure. You say you need space. She hears, I don't matter to you. This is the translation problem. The words land differently than they were sent. And the reason for that isn't carelessness or cruelty. It's attachment. Early in life, your brain created a map of what it means when someone raises their voice, pulls away, goes quiet, or pushes harder. That map was drawn by the first people who were supposed to make you feel safe. And whether those people were warm or unpredictable, gentle or overwhelming, the map got made. Now, every conflict you enter, you aren't just responding to the person in front of you. You're responding to everyone who ever made you feel small in a moment of disagreement. That's not irrational. That's memory. That's survival. The second reason is something most people never see in themselves, but almost everyone does. There's a moment in most arguments where one person stops trying to solve the problem and starts trying to win. And it doesn't happen because they're cruel. It happens because losing, even in a conversation, can feel like losing yourself. Psychologists call this identity threat. When what you believe about who you are gets challenged, when you feel like you're being called irresponsible, uncaring, selfish, your brain treats that the same way it treats physical danger. The argument is no longer about the dishes or the tone or the missed call. It's about whether you are good enough, whether you matter. And no one argues calmly when they're fighting for their own sense of self. This is why the most heated moments in relationships rarely start with big things. They start with small things that carry enormous weight underneath. And here's the part nobody tells you. The reason arguments feel so impossible to stop, even when you can see them happening in real time, is because your nervous system is running faster than your thoughts. Before you've decided how to respond, your body is already responding. Heart rate climbing, breathing shallowing, muscles tensing. This is called dysregulation. And in that state, the part of your brain responsible for nuance, empathy, and listening is essentially offline. You are physically not able to hear her clearly when you are flooded, and she is physically not able to hear you when she is. Two flooded nervous systems in a room together don't create understanding. They create noise. This is where it gets interesting, because the behavior that looks like stubbornness or coldness or aggression in those moments is actually the oldest form of self-protection your body knows. Think about where you learned to argue. Most people, if they look back honestly, can trace their conflict style directly to childhood. Did disagreement in your home get loud? Then loud became normal, and silence feels like abandonment. Did disagreement get cold and silent? Then silence became normal, and raised voices feel like catastrophe. You didn't choose your conflict pattern. It was handed to you before you were old enough to question it. And the extraordinary thing is, it worked. Whatever you did as a child to navigate tension in your home, it got you through. It was adaptive. It helped you survive the environment you were in. The problem is that you grew up. Your environment changed. But the pattern remained, like an old map for a city that no longer looks the same. As you get older, something quietly shifts. The arguments you used to have at 20 look different at 35. Not because the issues changed, but because you did. Life has a way of softening certain edges. Loss does that. Time does that. The accumulation of enough moments where you were right and it cost you something you loved. That does that too. People don't stop having conflict patterns as they age, but they often start to recognize them, not with shame, with something closer to a tired, knowing familiarity. Oh, there it is again. The pattern doesn't disappear, but there can be a moment, sometimes subtle, sometimes sudden, where you stop being inside it and start being able to see it. Underneath every argument, if you follow it far enough, there's almost always a person trying to feel safe. Not right, not powerful, not in control for its own sake. Safe. Arguments are, at their core, attempts at emotional regulation. When she raises her voice, she is trying to be heard. When you shut down, you are trying to stop the overwhelm. When one person escalates and the other withdraws, what you're watching is two nervous systems trying, in completely opposite ways, to return to some version of equilibrium. The conflict is the symptom, the search for safety is the root. And when you understand that, really understand it, the person across from you stops looking like an opponent. They start looking like someone trying, in the only way they currently know how, to feel okay. This is the part that might change something quietly inside you. You don't fight because you are flawed. You fight because you are human, because you were built to protect yourself, because you care enough that the people closest to you have the power to reach the places inside you that strangers never could. The intensity of a conflict is almost always proportional to the depth of the connection. You don't argue like this with people who don't matter. The very fact that it gets this complicated, this charged, this hard, that's not evidence of a broken relationship. That's evidence of a real one. You don't need to be fixed. You need to be understood, starting with yourself. And maybe that's where it always begins. Not with the right words or the right timing or the perfect response, but with a quieter recognition. This is a person trying to feel safe. And somewhere underneath all of this, so are you.